2018 was probably one of the greatest years in gaming history. We got absolute bangers like God of War, Smash Ultimate, Celeste, and Among Us, which nobody played until 2 years later. And then of course there's Red Dead Redemption 2, my favorite game of all time, and as of this recording, it's the 7th highest selling game in history. Now look, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this game is perfect. It's got flaws, big ones, but the fact that it dropped in one of the most stacked years in gaming and still got people hooked, that's impressive. And get this, 7 years later, the community is still growing. In fact, the player count on Steam just hit a new all-time high recently, and that's after Rockstar basically started treating the online community like a family treats its dementia-ridden uncle, only bringing him out when it's absolutely necessary and feeding him scraps. I've gone through this game so much that I genuinely can't even play it anymore. My brain has hit its limits with just how much every corner of this world is burned into my memory. And while the open world is incredible and definitely my favorite part, the story mode is what really made Red Dead Redemption 2 stick with me and the majority of people as well. It's the part that defines the game, but oddly enough, it's also the one that has the most issues. First off, the cast of characters is fucking ginormous. I remember in chapter 1, I was almost overwhelmed by the sheer number of gang members packed into that tiny wooden cabin. I thought there was no way I would remember even half of these people, let alone get attached to them.
Here, I hadn't forgotten about that storybook you lost.
Thanks so much, Uncle Arthur.
Miss Grimshaw, Herr Strauss, Reverend Swanson, Tilly, Lenny, Charles, while not all of them serve huge roles in the plot, their personalities and backstories are so distinct that it's basically impossible to forget them, especially when you're just hanging out at camp, listening to their conversations and learning about their pasts. It's those little moments that make them feel real and keep you invested in their stories, even if they're not all pulling their weight in the gang's biggest moments. So it kinda fucking sucks that so many people miss out on a good chunk of this because they stopped playing at chapter 2 or earlier. The game starts off slow, and I totally get it. Who wants to deal with sluggish controls while Arthur's just casually power walking around camp, or during certain mission segments where you can't even run? But honestly, these problems aren't all that major to me, at least not this early on. The game takes its sweet time in the beginning because it wants you to slow down and to actually get attached to these characters. It's setting you up so that when everything inevitably goes to shit, it hurts. The build-up might feel slow, but once the consequences of everyone's actions start piling up, you realize just how much that early game add up, and before you know it, you really start to feel like a part of this messy, dysfunctional found family, and it hits hard. There are so many different interactions you can stumble across, whether it's pointless bickering over nothing or moments that subtly foreshadow what's to come.
I'd love to go to Mexico. One day.
Maybe you will.
No matter how many times you replay this game, you'll always find at least one new cutscene in camp, and it's incredible. And dude, don't even get me started on the main set of characters. Dutch and Micah are, to this day, some of my favorite antagonists in any work of fiction. Dutch is this charismatic, manipulative mastermind who slowly unravels over the course of the game. And Micah, oh my god. Fuck Micah. Blue ball. He's just a perfect scumbag, the kind of villain you love to hate. Every scene he's in makes your blood boil, but he's also not just some bland, run-of-the-mill Disney villain. He's not just evil for the sake of being evil. Well, okay, I think you can make an argument that yes, he is. But he's also cold, cunning, manipulative, and knows exactly how to worm his way into Dutch's head. He doesn't just twirl his mustache and cackle, he plays the long game, chipping away at the gang from the inside until he's the only one Dutch truly trusts, or at least wants to trust. And even though he's not some physically imposing brute, his insane marksmanship and impressive survival instinct almost makes you want to respect him. Like most people in the gang, Micah's life was never easy. He was born into a family of outlaws who had zero empathy, killing not just to survive, but also because they enjoyed it. Real Florida man behavior. It'd be easy to look at this and say, well, of course Micah turned out like this. Poor guy never had a chance. But nah, he's just built different. During chapter 4, the game drops a little hidden gem. A letter from his brother Amos Bell, which is completely missable if you just speedrun the game like a G Fuel addicted Twitch streamer.
He was my husband. The dude who died in the wagon was her husband? Yes! She's single!
Amos, just like Micah, had the same upbringing, committed the same crimes, same horrific life choices, but unlike Micah, Amos actually grew a conscience, realized, maybe killing people for sport isn't the move, and distanced himself. That letter basically confirms that Micah had every opportunity to change, or at least become somewhat morally sound, but instead he woke up every morning and chose to be the worst person imaginable. He'll pick fights with people who aren't even bothering him, kill Jack's dog because he sees him as dead weight, and straight up slaughter an entire family because they took his his guns. He's not broken, he's not misunderstood, he's just an evil piece of shit. He isn't some tragic figure who got dealt a bad hand, but what he probably is one of the most realistic depictions of what a lot of outlaws were like back then. Not every gunslinger was some selfless anti-hero. Most of them were probably just violent, selfish psychopaths who lived and died by the gun.
But, don't get what's famous confused with what's true. The ones of us that lived that life, we was too busy being scared for our scalp to talk to no newspaper writers or dime novel men.
And then there's Dutch. Even to this day, people can't seem to pin this motherfucker down on the morality spectrum. Did he actually enjoy helping people, or was it all just manipulation? Did he really mean to shoot that girl in Blackwater, or was it a mistake? And most importantly, what the fuck happened to his drip in the first game? How did he go from peak 1800s fashion to pulling up like he lost a bet? While all of this was definitely done on purpose to make the players question Dutch similarly to how John and Arthur do, I'd argue that most of what he does early on is actually done in good faith. It's clear that Dutch, at least at first, is a better man than most. While he definitely does have a huge ego, he still brings in people that society, especially during that time, would cast aside. Colored people, immigrants, prostitutes, and brings them into the gang.
We're not racist.
There is an argument to be made that he only did this because they seemed easy to manipulate, but it's unclear if Dutch himself ever saw things that way. He genuinely believes in the gang's cause, or at least wants to believe in it. The problem is, as time goes on, his ideals start crumbling. Not just because the gang keeps suffering loss after loss, but also because of his massive ego. And his slow descent into delusion and control makes his fall from grace one of the most heartbreaking parts of this game, right next to Uncle's Lumbago. Then there's Arthur Morgan, who starts off as your typical gruff outlaw, loyal, tough, and a little too good at turning people into Swiss cheese. At first, all he seems to be is nothing more than Dutch's favorite attack dog, always nodding along and doing the dirty work. But as the game goes on, you realize he's not just some brain-dead trigger finger. He's smart, resourceful, caring, and actually somewhat capable of self-reflection. But because Dutch and Hosea gave him a purpose and a place to live when he was young, he feels indebted to them. This sounds way worse now that I'm saying it out loud. Him watching what are basically members of his family get picked off one by one is a slow motion train wreck where you're strapped to the front. Every death and bad decision just hammers in the fact that there's no pulling this thing back from the edge. The gang isn't gonna ride off into the sunset, Dutch isn't some misunderstood genius, and Arthur sure as hell isn't making it out of this alive. And that's when it really hits. This isn't about fixing anything anymore, it's about making sure the few people who still have a shot at life don't end up as just another pile of bodies in the dirt. And that final mission with John, man, Rockstar really knew how to hit where it hurts.
Dude, are you fucking crying?
No! My only real gripe with the story, Guarma. Absolute dog water. They bring out a literal warship, there's explosions, gunfights, a full-blown revolution happening, and somehow, I still don't care. But enough of that, let's talk about how the missions are structured. Well, it fucking sucks. Giving credit where credit is due, for the first 4 chapters or so, you're completely immersed. Not just by the incredible storytelling, but also by the amazing cinematography. The way it seamlessly transitions from cutscenes to gameplay is just chef's kiss. It's like you're watching a movie, but you're actively in it. The camera angles and the way the action flows from one scene to the next, it's all designed to keep you locked in, and while the shooting mechanics are, let's be honest, kinda ass, especially for a game that's all about blowing people's heads off, the intense music, beautiful locations, satisfying sound effects, and gore makes it so bombastic and over the top, you just can't help but want more. Yeah, the aiming feels like you're holding a stick with a potato in the end of it, but when that heavy guitar drops and you see the blood splatter like it's a Jackson Pollock painting, suddenly you're like, who cares about mechanics? I'm a goddamn cowboy! And even though you don't have to resort to stuff like this, it feels so damn satisfying to mix up your approach in every situation. But something you've probably noticed, not just on replays, but even during your first rodeo, is that the missions are extremely linear. There are like 2 missions I can think of where that isn't the case, but for the most part, the game does not let you deviate from your set path in any meaningful way. Try taking a different route, mission failed. Try using a different approach, mission failed. Let the Skinner brothers cure Uncle's Lumbago, mission failed. It's like Rockstar spent years crafting this insanely detailed open world, only to treat its players like game journalists during the story missions in case they fall over a rock and give it a 6 out of 10. I get it. When you're making a massive game like this, you can't make every mission a sprawling, open-ended experience. Especially with how much effort is put into those cinematic moments, which yes, the game definitely benefits from a lot. But sometimes it feels like Rockstar was so focused on making sure horse testicles looked perfect in every shot that they forgot to let us play the fucking game. The cinematics are great and all, but when the gameplay is essentially a straight path with little room to experiment, you start feeling less like an outlaw and more like a, you guessed it, game journalist. Honestly, I'd be fine if like 30 to 40% of the story missions were open-ended and the rest were scripted. I get it, certain moments need that tight, controlled path to make the story keep flowing, and it can definitely make for a better experience. But being punished for straying 2 meters away from your friends during a shootout or having your guns forcefully unequipped for something else is such a pain in the ass to deal with. Like, why even give me the freedom to carry all these weapons if you're just gonna swap them out for whatever you feel like? And while I don't think Rockstar games should ever be some sort of death march in terms of difficulty, having a game that actually challenges you every now and then makes it way more satisfying in the long run. But instead, the shootouts feel like Rockstar's trying to babysit you through every encounter, making sure you don't stub your toe like a fucking game journalist. Enemies have the accuracy of stormtroopers, and your health bar might as well be a brick wall unless you purposely stand in the open like an idiot. But all that being said, having gameplay that leans so much on its story and world to keep you entertained isn't the worst thing ever. If anything, it's a testament to how damn good the writing and atmosphere are, making the experience all the more memorable. I'll always remember Arthur barely surviving after getting abducted by the O'Driscolls, dragging himself back to camp, thinking the worst was finally over, only to roll up to Rhodes with Micah, Bill, and Sean and witness a moment that made my heart drop.
Don't feel right. I could have told you.
This incredible mission, which came right after another insanely gripping one, mind you, is then followed up by an all-out war against the Braithwaites.
If you ain't gonna be civilized about it.
Torches lighting up the night, bodies dropping left and right, and the gang tearing through the manor like the world's angriest landlords evicting a family at gunpoint. This is a perfect display of the gang operating at full capacity, where everyone is moving like a well-oiled machine of chaos and destruction. It's fucking awesome, but in the most deranged way possible. Despite its many flaws, the story mode is still absolutely incredible. It's carried by its diverse and interesting cast of characters, its insanely immersive historical setting, and that rockstar polish that makes even the most mundane horse ride feel like a cinematic masterpiece. Yeah, the actual missions could use a little less handholding for the terminally incapable, but the incredible soundtrack and sheer number of jaw-dropping moments almost makes you want to forget that the game sometimes treats you like a toddler with a Fisher-Price controller. But even though the story mode is what pulls you in and leaves a great taste in your mouth, the open world and side content are what really keep you hooked. Whether it's hunting animals, stumbling across random events, or just messing around with the different side activities, there's just something special about roaming around in such a massive, beautifully crafted world. It feels like the game is offering you an endless amount of stuff to do. Some of my favorite moments were just the simple ones, walking around, soaking in the view, and discovering some weird out-of-place building or structure, and having Arthur write it down in his journal, which made me feel like it was actually my story. It's like you're the one exploring the frontier, leaving your mark on it. There were so many times I just stumbled upon some freaky shit, not even knowing what the hell it was, but immediately understanding that this area had a story to tell. Rockstar really leaned into the creepiness in this game, and honestly, it was like a masterclass in unsettling atmosphere. It's not just the eerie locations that spook you, it's the subtle touches that really get under your skin. There are moments where you're walking through the foggy swamps at night and you just know something's lurking in the distance. Whether it be from other NPCs talking to you, a fucking hanging corpse, yet Actually, you know what? That might have done the trick. Oh yeah, that random shack with all those skeletons. What an unsettling surprise. And then if you wait long enough, a UFO just casually floats above you. And these disfigured bodies scattered throughout the map aren't just some random decoration either. If you stick around and explore for a bit, you might find they lead to a secret bounty where you have to apprehend this fucking lunatic. Or how about the Skinner brothers and the Murphy brood? These guys probably made me shit my pants more times than I'd like to count. They'll follow you, set traps, and make sure you double check every corner. And the chaos they spread throughout the world becomes extremely noticeable when you're in their territories. As a matter of fact, all gang life is integrated beautifully in this game. You'll always stumble upon random encounters with criminals, whether they're antagonizing you, running some shady business, or just casually stumbling across one of their camps. You can't get away from them, and that's actually a good thing. Sometimes there's nothing better than finding a Del Lobo running his mouth, kill him, wipe out his whole gang, clear out their hideouts, and then head back to camp to cook a rabbit you blasted with a double-barreled shotgun earlier. Or how about when you come across those KKK members, either watching them embarrass themselves with their own stupidity or taking them out for some sweet honor points. And even their Pinkertons aren't just some story-exclusive threat, they'll hunt you down in the open world too, constantly reminding you that the days of the Old West are numbered. They're less like lawmen and more like the world's most determined debt collectors. This time period is adapted so well. Sure, the Wild West isn't as wild as it used to be, but outside of your own camp, good luck finding anyone even remotely progressive. Lemoyne might as well be a League of Legends Discord server. Native Americans are completely ostracized to the point where when Chapter 6 ends, you cannot find them in the open world at all anymore, due to them having to relocate during the My Last Boy mission. Saint Denis looks like they've been sponsored by an oil company, and even the so-called high society is just a bunch of pompous idiots pretending they're better than the outlaws they look down upon. Although, to be fair, they actually might be. The random encounters where you get robbed or ambushed really sell the feeling of chaos and unpredictability, and the scenery is just absolutely stunning. You know you've succeeded in making a game when it makes real life look shit by comparison. Every town has its own vibe, and even basic stuff like the waterfalls and caves make you want to stop and take it all in. When the world's this vast and beautiful, you can't help but explore. The open world ditches that feeling of linearity that the story mode has, and that's when the real magic happens. Red Dead really nails that sense of wonder. Even in the more desolate parts of the map, like New Austin, there's always something lurking around the corner. Whether it's a bounty, a legendary animal, or an eerie plague that's wiped out an entire town, there's no shortage of weird and unexpected things to stumble upon. Too bad we never got a fucking Mexico DLC. It's in the map, come on Rockstar. The wildlife contains over 200 animals, all doing their thing and constantly reacting to you. Birds scatter when you get too close, wolves team up to take down a deer. Nature is wild and it really does feel like it's alive in this game. You can hunt them for food, donate them to Pearson, or skin them for clothes. That's another thing too. Customization got a huge upgrade from your hair to your clothes to your guns and even to your horse. And the strangers and freaks missions, those are something else. Some are just there for a quick laugh or action, which is all great. But others seem like natural continuations of Arthur's character, like when you reunite the Downs family or help that random war vet, and especially when you assist that nun in getting her cross back. Combine that with the honor mechanic and you have a really cool, albeit simple way to connect the open world and the story. You can play this game like the most degenerate Quentin Tarantino villain, just mowing down everyone in your path for absolutely no reason. And honestly, it's a fucking blast. It makes the combat that feels kinda outdated sometimes, actually fun for a while. Whether you're aimlessly killing or robbing a train, you can make your own fun whenever you want to, although it will impact the ending you get. Unless you're playing as John, in which case, who gives a shit. But if you actually play through this game for the first time with mostly high honor and you get into those special side missions I mentioned earlier, that moment with Arthur and Sister Calderon in the main story, man, that hits you like a freight train.
I still don't believe in nothing.
Often, neither do I. But then I meet someone like you, and everything makes sense.
You're too smart for me, sister. I guess I'm afraid.
This game is special. Even when you compare it to the other open world games that came out years after it, it still stands apart with its incredible story, beautiful landmarks, and bountiful side content. I've beaten this shit close to 5 times already, and I've skinned an uncomfortable amount of animals, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, this is the best product Rockstar has ever produced. Now, if GTA 6 manages to improve upon those gameplay issues I mentioned earlier, there's no doubt in my mind that it will be the greatest game of all time.
The day is done, time's come. You battled hard, the war is won. You did your worst, you tried your best. Now it's time to rest.